Hey y'all, I'm really excited that you're here with me. We're going to paint a mixed media cow today, and I'm going to quickly go through some of my supplies here on the video. I've got a list with links for you here on the page where you're watching the video. You can just click on the link and it will take you to an online place where you can order. And you don't have to use these same supplies that I'm using, just something in the general area of it. I'm going to be using some Deco Art paints, just regular craft paints. You can get these basically anywhere, but you're going to need white and brown, a light green, a blue, and this is called Coral Blush. It's just a coral pinky color. So basically you just need white, brown, green, blue, and pink paints. These are acrylic paints also. You're going to need palette knives. These are the two that I'm going to use most of the time. This one has a rounded tip and this one has a pointed, sharper tip. You're going to need just an assortment of brushes, mostly smaller brushes like this. I use this when I am spreading my Deco Page or Mod Podge, and it's just like a little spatula. It's plastic, or not really plastic, it's more like a silicone, I guess. But it works really well. But you could also use a paintbrush or one of those little black sponges that you can buy at the craft store. Those are going to soak up a little bit more of the glue, and that's why I like to use this, because it doesn't soak into that. Okay, you're also going to need some type of glue. This is what I'm going to be using. It's a Deco Page matte glue and sealer. And then you're going to need some sort of scrapbook papers. I'm pretty sure that these came from Hobby Lobby and Michael's, and that's just what I'm going to be using today. You can also use some doilies if you like to use doilies. We can tear and use those also, which would be something like this. It's on my table here, these doilies. But to get started, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a layer of paint down on top of our canvas. And you can use a big brush or you can use a palette knife to do that. And I'm going to use this light green color. My cow is going to be pretty feminine and soft. You can choose whatever color scheme you would like for yours. I'm also using some palette paper. I'm going to show you. Let me pour this out and then I'll show you. This is what I'm using for my paint. It helps to have a flat surface like this. It just comes in a little booklet like this. But it helps to have that when you're using your palette knife so that you can scrape it, because my normal palette looks like this. And it's almost impossible to get my palette knife down in there and get the paint out. So I don't really use that very much anymore. But anything, this is just waxed paper basically. You could use something like that. You could use a paper plate, would work too. Okay, so I'm gonna use a big old chip brush and cover the canvas. Make sure you get the sides while you're doing this. Make it easier on you later. If you paint and then try to go back and do your sides, you may end up messing up your painting. I'm also going to use a tool that helps me to dry my paint quickly, because I like to work pretty quickly. I'm not a patient painter. When I'm making a craft or doing a painting or something, I want to get it done. I'm a mom, and I don't have a whole lot of free time. So I'm going to be using this tool. It's actually an embossing heating tool. I'll put a link for one of these also. I think I got it at Michael's. And it's basically just a super powered dryer. It gets really hot. It's kind of like a hair dryer. You could use a hair dryer if you don't have one of these. But I'm going to turn this on and dry this just a little bit. You can't get it very close to the paint or it will cause it to bubble up and peel, and we don't want that. So just keep moving it around and it'll dry pretty quickly. Acrylic paint dries pretty quickly anyway. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is outline the basic shape of our cow. And I'm going to use the brown and a paintbrush to do this. And just get a little paint on your brush, and we're going to start with the top of her head. Just make a curved line like this. And you need to be careful, I'm guilty of doing this sometimes, that you don't get too close to the bottom of your canvas here when you're making your cow's head. So we're just going to come down like this on either side. And then I'm going to go straight across here because that's going to be the top of her nose. And I'm going to make a rectangle and a little bit of a mouth here. Okay, so that's basically the head. Then we're going to come back up here and make 2 half circles for one ear. Do the same on this side. And then we're going to make her body. Just make a line here and a line here. And we've already got our basic shape. Now inside this rectangle, we're going to make the actual nose. So we're going to go around like this. And this part here, if you've seen any of my cows, you've seen that I usually make some white areas here and here. Okay, so there's our basic shape. Forgot to mention that you need something to rinse your brushes with. So just a little pan of water or a cup of water will work. Alright, while that dries a little bit, I'm going to pick out what kind of paper I want to use. And we need to make sure that it's not going to clash with the paint colors that we have picked out. I'm just going to use paper to make her nose here and the insides of her ears there. And I think here's the doily also, like I was talking about earlier. I think she's going to be a light brown, and we're going to be using coral and turquoise. So I want her nose to contrast with those colors. And I think that I might use some of this chevron patterned paper. I'm liking that with those colors. So all you have to do is look at what you've drawn here, the basic shape of it, and then just take your paper and tear, tear, tear. It's not going to be perfect, and it doesn't need to be, so don't get too caught up in trying to make it just right. Okay, so we're going to use our Deco Page glue, and we'll put this down here for the nose, and we'll do the same on each ear. Just tear out a basic ear shape. Here's one. And there's one. And see, my edges are not straight. They're a little raggedy, but I like it that way. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this down. And we're just going to put the Mod Podge or the Deco Page on the back. We're not going to put it on top yet. Just hold it down with it in the right spot for right now. I can't remember which way I had it. I think it was like this. Okay. Alright, next we're going to add some white paint on our palette paper and mix that up with our brown to make the body of our cow. Alright, I'm going to use my palette knife for this. Don't mix it completely, just leave it a little. You can still see some white and some brown in the mix here. Underneath here needs to be a little darker because it's going to be a shadowy area. go around the edges of this here. Okay, and basically with your colors, you're going to want it to be darker on the outside edges, lighter in the middle. And here is a little bit the opposite. You want it to be a little bit lighter on these top edges here and here, and darker in the middle. So I'm going to just come down the middle with some white to lighten up this area right here. See, there's still some green that's peeking through right there. That's okay to leave it that way. Alright, so there's some color on our cow. The next thing I'm going to do is work around the nose right here and add some white. Let me show you this one. This is Blossom. And if you can see the way her nose looks here, we've got the actual black part here that's the nose and the mouth, and then around it we've got some white paint. So that's what we're going to work on. So I just get some white on my palette knife and go across the top here. This one's going to be a little different because her nose has paper. It's not a solid color, but you do it the same way. It's going to come out a little bit here. And then come back in. And same thing on this other side. I want it to go out like this and then come back up. Almost like a little triangle over here on the side. And then I round those edges off. Okay. And I'm going to go down here and make her mouth with white also. And there's still a little green that's peeking through there. I'm going to dry it a little bit more. Okay, and while this dries, I'm going to use my blue, which is not a big contrast, but a little bit different from the green that I've got in the background here. And I'm going to take my palette knife and go around the background a little bit just to make it stand out and have somewhat of a pattern. And I like to use the palette knife with the pointed end to do this one because you can get inside these little nooks and crannies. Okay, so I'm just going to put a good bit on my knife and then just kind of scrape down. There's no way to do this right or wrong. Just, you don't want to cover up the green, you just want to add a little bit of blue on top. Okay, so that gives it a nice different kind of background effect. And now we're going to work on her eyes. And I use the same brown and a brush. And you're going to come down just a little bit from the sides where her ears are here and just make a circle. And it's going to need to come out a little over this line here where you've drawn the edge of her head. So my cows usually have more human-like eyes, but that's just the way I do it. You don't have to do it that way. If you want it to look more cow-like, you can do that too. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to go back in here and straighten up this line here where the side of her face meets the side of her body here. Make it a little bit darker. Okay. I'm probably going to come back and put a little more white right here in the middle. But for now, we're just going to keep going with the eyes. So I'm going to dry this a little bit. I'm going to use the same blue that I used on the background here. On my brush, I'm going to get a little bit of white and mix it in with this blue just to give it a swirled color. And I'm going to go here and here. It's just 2 little swipes. I need a little more white in there to swirl that up. There's probably a technical word for that, but whatever. Swirly paint. Okay. Then you're going to need a smaller brush and just pure white. And we're going to make a triangle on this side. And a triangle on this side. And then we're going to just go around the edge here and pull them together at the bottom. And I have a good, huge blob of paint on my brush. She's going to look very surprised until we take some dark and make the edges of the eyes a little more. So now we're going to dry this. Remember, you can use a hair dryer if you want to, or you can just be patient and wait for it to dry. Alright, we're going to pick up our brown again. And this is what's going to help make those eyes look a little less surprised. We're going to start here, and you need to put a line here so that it comes down a little bit over the top of the blue. So we're kind of giving her an eyelid is what we're doing. Okay. Pull it down to the edge of your triangle right there. I'm also going to go underneath this and like this. And then I'm going to straighten up the pupils here and make them a little more round and a little less snake-like. And if they touch the top of or the bottom of the line up here for your eyelid, that helps to calm her look a little bit too. Otherwise, she's going to look very surprised all the time. And the heavier the eyelid, the lazier she's going to look, or a little sad or droopy. So you can decide how you want her expression to be. The bigger the eyes, the more excited or surprised she's going to look, and the smaller you make the opening, the less enthusiastic she's going to be. So now we're going to just do her some little eyelashes here, because every cow needs eyelashes, right? And it's really hard to do this on this side. So sometimes it's best to turn your canvas like this, and it helps with your strokes. Okay. I'm going to wash my brush off, and we're going to add a little bit of white on the pupils of her eyes. Just a few little specks here and there, and that makes her look all sparkly. Okay, and now we need to work on her nose a little bit. A cow's nose is not the easiest thing to do, but if you can see this one here, it's basically just two shapes here, and we're going to put a little lighter color in there to give it the illusion of light and depth. So I'm going to use this brown again, and I'm just going to make a shape like this. Looks like a little football. And another one on this side. And since we're painting on top of this paper here, you have to put it on pretty thick. You may have to play with it to get them somewhat even or to look like you want them to look. And I'm just going to add a little bit of white in there. maybe a little bit of blue. And I'm going to add a little more white here in the middle, and on the sides here. And I'm also going to put some blue in there, just to jazz it up a little. Here on top of this ear, maybe a little bit of blue up here. Okay. I'm also going to lighten up this down here a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to put a fun little flower on her head up here, and that's where your pink paint comes in. I'm going to mix it with some white. I'm going to put it on pretty thickly. But to make a flower for her head, we're just going to take the paint and make a half circle like this. Pull it around again like this. And then close it up on the bottom. Don't overwork it or you'll regret it. And I'm going to leave that little hole there in the middle. You can see the brown and a little bit of the blue that's peeking through there, but that just gives it the illusion of the middle of the flower. So we're going to leave that like it is. And I think I'm going to make a little leaf, maybe, or maybe not. If you would like to, you could take your palette knife and some of the green that we use for the background and just make a little football shape there for a leaf. But I think I'm going to leave her like this. And I'm also going to take a little bit of the pink and add it on her in a few spots, just to pull it all together. All the different colors and textures. I'm going to put a little bit of blue right here. And right here. And then take your small brush and your favorite color and put your initials on your painting. And you've got your mixed media cow. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you've learned some things. And I'd love to see your mixed media cow that you've made. If you want to send it to me in an email, you can email me at artbyamandahilburn@gmail.com, or you can contact me on Facebook and message me. But I'd love to see what you create, and I hope this helps you.